Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order for Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024, and welcome everyone to our meeting, which we'll now call to order. Are there any declarations of interest from members of council? Seeing none, I will move to our land acknowledgement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used by and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaty First Nation and other Indigenous peoples, and on behalf of council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as East Gwillimbury's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and the waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and the environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. On our agenda tonight, item D, deputations. There are no deputations. Item E is presentations. We have no presentations at this time. We have a committee recommendations to adopt the committee of the whole recommendation from the meeting held on June 25th, 2024. It's moved by Councillor Crothers and seconded by Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that council adopt the committee of the whole recommendations from the meeting held on June 25th, 2024. All in favor? And that's carried. Item number 1 is, yes.
Through Madam Mayor, just as an advisement, there was one recommendation from today's Committee of the Whole with respect to a deferral of a report. We just needed ratification for tonight so that we can work with staff and update the agenda tomorrow morning.
Certainly.
So that one is the one that you'll be considering right now.
In front of us. So this is to adopt the Committee of the Whole recommendation from the meeting that was this afternoon. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Foster. Be it resolved that council adopt the Committee of the Whole recommendations from the meeting held on July 23rd, 2024 as follows. Be it resolved that Development Services Planning Branch Report DS 2024-20 dated July 23rd, 2024 entitled Official Plan Amendment Application Woodbine GP Inc. 19350, 19512, 19298, 19266, and 19222 Woodbine Avenue, 2176 and 2203 Far Avenue, and 2196 Mount Albert Road, OPA 2301, be deferred to the July 25th, 2024 Committee of the Whole Council meeting, and that Council ratify this resolution at the July 23rd, 2024 Council meeting. All in favor? And that is carried. Item G is adoption of minutes. To adopt the minutes of the whole Council meeting from the meeting held on June 25th, 2024. Moved by Brian Johns, seconded by Tara Roy DeClemente. Be it resolved that council adopt the Committee of the Whole Council minutes from the meeting held on June 25th, 2024. All in favor? And that's carried. Item 2, to adopt the council minutes from the special meeting held on June 18th, 2024 and the meeting held on June 25th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Crothers. Be it resolved that council adopt the following minutes. Council minutes from the special meeting held on June 18th, 2024. Council minutes from the meeting held on June 25th. All in favor? And that's carried. Item H is correspondence for consideration. Correspondence from C. Hobbs dated June 1st, 2024 regarding vacant and unoccupied homes in East Gwillimbury. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor LaHaye, go ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to have a discussion on this topic.
Certainly.
Yes,
go right ahead.
on this correspondence from Mr. Hobbs. I referred to it earlier this afternoon. It came up in a deputation. One of the deputants happened to mention vacant homes, specifically on Leslie Street. And but I think it's important to have this as an opportunity to discuss it in greater detail. And I think that not only is vacant homes an issue, which this resident was speaking to in his email, in terms of appearance as well as safety issues and concerns, that vacant homes and short-term rentals are an issue that we've been dealing with, not only in Ward 3, but in Ward 2, where this correspondence originated, as well as across East Gwillimbury as a whole. So I think that it's an opportunity to talk about potential revenue streams, about having a policy in place to ensure safety and appearances in our neighborhoods across East Gwillimbury as a whole. So I wanted to bring this up for discussion.
Yes. Councillor Crone, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to add my voice to this as well, because I think vacant homes and short-term rentals are two sides of the same coin. We've been having issues with one short-term rental in our ward, Ward 3, and I know we're actually in court with them right now because they haven't been, abiding by our noise bylaws. So it would be nice to have some extra teeth that we could use to enforce, proper standards. I think if maybe we could add to this today with the mover's indulgence, to maybe include some direction to staff to look at not necessarily creating a bylaw just yet, but look at what would be involved, what are the pros and cons of having a vacant home policy, a short-term rental policy, and see maybe some investigation what other municipalities in York Region and the GTA do to help combat this. I know there are upsides and downsides to this type of bylaw, but I think it warrants further investigation to help us promote good neighborliness. So that's what I would suggest to council tonight.
Councillor Roy DeClemente and then Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know this is not a new issue for our community, and in the past, staff have assured us that with respect to short-term rentals, that our zoning bylaw was sufficient to address the issue, because there are places where it's not permitted, and in fact, there's quite a few places where it's not permitted. And then further, with respect to vacant homes and weeds and so on, that our property standards bylaw was also strong enough to be able to give us the teeth that we needed to enforce it. So the challenge then becomes, how do we ensure that we as a municipality appear or are enforcing our zoning bylaw and our property standards bylaw to ensure that the illegal short-term rentals get shut down, that the noise complaints get addressed, and that the properties are maintained. So I think for me, it's more about what isn't happening, and how do we make sure that it continues to happen, rather than create a new Just wondering if maybe we can mute that. Thank you. Rather than set up a new charging system with new taxes and so on. And in the past, we've talked about a vacant home tax, and the staff came to us and said, well, the houses that are vacant are also not using the municipal services that they're paying for. So they're paying a property tax, but we're not collecting garbage. They're not using up library services. They're not using the services that they're paying. So why would we charge them more for services that they're not using? So that was what this body came to. That was the decision this body came to in the past. If procedurally it's appropriate for us to reopen the discussion, then perhaps. But I'm just providing some context there. So from my perspective, I'd prefer to hear from staff about what is hindering them from being able to enforce those bylaws that they assure us have enough teeth.
Thank you. Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. To me, it's about a disincentive to leave good homes vacant when we're in a housing crisis. So I think that it's important that some of these developers that will just sit on vacant homes, Holland Landing, we've got a number right in the center of town. And if they're only paying property tax, they can sit on it. Well, we've seen the garage, the gas station there has been empty for decades. But if they're incurring a cost to have that sit vacant, it's going to be their incentive to actually get something done with it. And I think we're going to see more and more of these sort of speculators that sit on their land and don't do anything with it until they figure it's going to make a profit for them. And I would rather have those homes rented out to people or proceed with the development, one or the other, but leaving them vacant is not what our residents want. So I think, yes, we do need to be looking at a vacant home tax or some other, we have to look at best practices across other municipalities and figure out what's best.
Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think that, we're all on the right track here, but I also understand that developers are not in the business of renting out their homes, so that, if they wanted to be landlords, they might run their business a different way. But is there a way that we could connect with some developers and find out what would make that work for them, or how we could help? When we talk about property standards, there's a vacant home on Mount Albert Road in Ward 1 that I called about well over a month ago. The grass is still not cut, hasn't been cut all year. Is it as simple as a reminder on somebody's computer that says, send out this email to the developer saying, we have a property standards and you better meet it, or we're going to send people in at $1,000 an hour or something to cut your grass? I don't know what that word, but maybe we're making it too difficult. I'm not sure.
Councillor LaHaye, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to respectfully suggest through you, Madam Mayor, that just because something's been done a certain way in the past, that things are ongoing and changing, and the current situation today may be very different than it was a few years ago prior to the pandemic, and that we need to be looking at additional revenue streams, and that other areas and cities like Ottawa and Toronto who have a vacant home tax, they get taxed at 6%. And so I think there's a potential there. If maybe we can have some clarification from Mr. Marshall. But I'm thinking that there are also safety concerns. For example, this morning, I just did a quick Google. I went online and I went to the top 3 websites that rent out rooms, not only full homes, but rooms. And you would be astonished at the number. There are hundreds of rooms for rent and short-term rental, as well as entire homes. So there begins to be a concern as well from a safety perspective. And I think that our ultimate duty as councillors is always to protect the safety of residents or short-term visitors, as the case may be, or the potential safety issues of vacant homes. So I would be supporting Councillor Crone's suggestion that we ask for a report of the pros and cons as of July 2024 of what the situation is with vacant and short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, with respect to the vacant home tax, that legislation was put in place a couple years ago, but it prohibits local municipalities from implementing it. So on a 2-tier system, the upper tier is responsible for implementing a vacant home tax. And I'm aware that York Region was looking into it last year, and they decided to put it on hold, is that they found it was, the administration was hard to sort out on a 2-tier governance model. So they're going to look at it a bit later, but they've put it on hold for now.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the rest of my colleagues, I think it's important that we satisfy ourselves by having staff look into it, have a review. I don't remember in my time on council since 2018 that we've had a full discussion on it. So I think that time enough time has passed that if nothing else, if we review it, we look at it and we say, you know what, we have all the tools we need at our disposal, then that's fine. We've satisfied ourselves that we have that. But I think we owe it to us and to the citizens to at least look at this again. I think, in the last term of council, I think we had two reviews of train whistles in the same term. We reviewed it twice. So I think we could do this once in this term to look at short-term rentals and vacant homes. Just, if for nothing else, to satisfy ourselves that we're on the right track.
I like the idea. I think that we have other neighbors of many different municipalities that I think are going through this as well. And I guess it just boils down to, what a shame that the house is sitting empty, and here's people who are parked, who are intense in our parks, and particularly when the weather changes and things are different. And somehow do you get those people together with the people who own that place and make a difference for everybody? So I'm keen on having a look at it and seeing if there's an opportunity to do better in our community. I guess that's the best way of putting it. Go ahead, please.
And I understand what Mr. Marshall's saying about, there are some things that we can't do, but if staff could look at what we could do, I think that I speak on behalf of many of my colleagues when I say that we're very frustrated when you call bylaw and the grass still doesn't get cut. It goes on and on and on. I've had multiple complaints that are months old before they're resolved. So, maybe some of the issues with the vacant properties is just increased bylaw presence. But we need to look at this from all angles, whether it's a tax, and maybe we can't do a tax, whether there's some sort of fee for developers who are sitting on empty places, whether it's working with them to find out if we can rent them out, help them somehow to be able to rent their properties. I think we just need to look at this from all angles, and I think everyone is here united on that, saying we need to do something because it's becoming a bigger problem.
So through you, Madam Mayor, procedurally, could I put forward a resolution now that we vote on, that we direct staff to look at the pros and cons and what other municipalities are doing and how we can tighten up our enforcement of bylaws, et cetera, so that we ask for staff to come back to us with a report?
Are you making a motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy to second that.
Thank you. Councillor Crone, second that.
Through Madam Mayor, just bear with us for a moment as we formulate the resolution.
Far away.
Madam Mayor, on the screen before you, the highlighted section has been updated with some language to reflect the proposal.
That council requests the staff research options for a vacant home policy and short-term rental policy, including neighboring municipalities, and report back to council. Councillor Roy DiClemente.
I was hoping to see that that enforcement activities would also be part of that discussion.
Would you like to add an addendum to?
It's Councillor Leahy's motion, so if she'd like to add that, I would like that. Thank you.
Enforcement standards, property standards, enforcement of property standards, or enforcement activities in terms of the language? Oh, yes. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
I'm wondering if we're not looking for staff to bring back a policy, but we're looking for a menu of options to deal with the growing concerns around vacant homes and short-term rentals. So I'm wondering if I'll defer to Mr. Velchik.
Go ahead, please.
Madam Mayor, an option is to just suggest the council request staff to research options to deal with vacant homes and short-term rentals, including looking at neighboring municipal practices and report back to council.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, to Councillor Roy DiClemente's point, I think if we're looking at options to deal with it, by definition, it would include looking at enforcement activities as part of that. So I don't know that you have to explicitly say it. We understand that would be part of those options to deal with that. And there might be others.
Thank you. So I'm looking now at the back part of the, it's been updated. There we go. You all have the first part in front of you. The second part is that council requests that staff research options regarding vacant homes and short-term rentals, including looking at neighboring municipalities' best practices and report back to council. And that is moved by Councillor LaHaye and Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. We're at item I for reports, and there are no reports in front of us today. Item J is bylaws, and we have no bylaws. We have a bylaw 2024-057 being a bylaw to authorize the Mayor and Municipal Clerk to execute a municipal funding agreement with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for the receipt of Canada Community Building Fund. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Roy DiClemente, all those in favor? And that's carried. We are at item K. Other business, we have no other business at this time. Item L is a confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Crothers. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-058 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council meeting held on July 23rd, 2024 be taken as read and acted and signed by the Mayor and Municipal Clerk. All those in favor? And that's carried. Item M is our adjournment. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor LaHaye, Councillor Foster. Be it resolved that the meeting of council adjourn at, I have 6:23 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate all of your support, and have a good evening.